That, okay. I'll announce this is our 10-second warning. Welcome to our May 2nd, 2013 Gilbert Town Council meeting. I'm Mayor John Lewis. My assignment is to call the meeting to order. This is a very special meeting and will progress as follows. We will begin with the posting of the colors by our Gilbert Police Department, after which there will be two special musical numbers, the Star Spangled Banner, presented by Dan Taylor of our Gilbert Fire Department, and then America the Beautiful, which will also be played with pipes and drums by the Gilbert Fire Department. We will proceed in that manner, please.
Prepare to post the colors. Post. Honor guard. Present. Humps. Order. Home. Pipes, drums, ready. Ready? Pace. Forward. March.
We invite you to remain standing as Reverend William Jefferson comes forward of the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks. The Gilbert Lodge of 2848 will offer the invocation. And this is also designated as the National Day of Prayer in the United States, the first Thursday of May. And so, Reverend Jefferson, please.
We bow our heads. Dear Lord, we come before you this evening and we thank you for all the blessings that you have given us. Allow each of us to never forget that our most important responsibilities should always be that of being instruments of your compassion. Help us to continue blending ourselves into a community in which your power and tenderness is never forsaken. And guide us to praise you and glorify your holy name on every step and each decision of our journey. Of this we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Well, there's a certain emotion tonight, and it has everything to do with agenda item number 1. And in order to properly get to agenda item number 1, we need to conduct a roll call. We'll invite our town clerk, Kathy Templeton, to conduct that roll call.
Mayor Lewis.
Here.
Vice Mayor Cooper. Here. Councilmember Taylor. Here. Councilmember Cook. Councilmember Daniels. Councilmember Peterson. Councilmember Ray. Quorum is present.
Thank you. Town Manager Banjo, if you could please join me. And agenda item number 1 is to recognize the retirement of Fire Chief Colin DeWitt. Colin? I'm going to hold that for just a minute. You know what that's for. That's very special. This afternoon, there was a large gathering and a program that took place. And so we won't repeat everything, but we'll summarize a few items, and then Town Manager Banjo will read pieces or whatever would be appropriate on the official certificate of appreciation. Part of this afternoon, presentations from many individuals from various fire stations. One of the plaques that our Fire Chief Colin DeWitt received was one that identified 40 years of service, 1973 to 2013, as a public safety professional. 26 years with the City of Phoenix, 14 years as Fire Chief in Gilbert, Arizona. 60 members of the fire department when you came, 197 now, and you have been that leader to take us from our roots to being a full-fledged, bona fide fire department. One of the recognitions this afternoon that caught our interest was to recognize Colin as part of the Dirty Dozen. And that was explained, and I thought in a very historic manner, that the first 12 official paramedic team members, you were one of the 12. One of the presentations this afternoon, and this is what I hear as the mayor many times, that Gilbert has taken the lead to show communities how police and fire working as a team can accomplish so much, and has everything to do with that designation of being the 5th safest city in the United States because of that team effort of police and fire. And it was noted that that does not happen in a community without both the fire chief and the police chief working as a team, and we have that here in Gilbert, and we thank you for that. The other comment I think I made this afternoon, I quoted Vicki Songer, who said, Chief DeWitt leaves a legacy of a trail of happiness in Gilbert, at which time a song came to our minds of Happy Trails to You. That's when our town manager grabbed the microphone from me and started singing Happy Trails to You, and we won't repeat it. The other item that I thought was very touching, of all of the recognitions this afternoon, and there were many, but from your own family. The plaque that had the large words that summarize what they had seen for the last 40 years, protect and serve. So on behalf of 220,000 citizens, we thank you. And I now turn to Town Manager Banger for some more specifics of what the Certificate of Appreciation says.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a lot of things to say to Colin, about Colin this afternoon, what he means to this organization, to this community. He will be dearly missed. He will leave a huge hole in our organization and our hearts. He's been a tremendous leader for us. We look up to him. And I don't know that it's really set in that Colin will no longer be with us after tonight. One thing that you may not know about Colin, and he's a very good negotiator. When he came in to talk to Mark Skocipic, our deputy town manager, and I, and said he'd like to retire, we said, great. Let's talk about time frames. I'm thinking 5 years. We ended up at 3 months, I think, was the most we could get out of him. And so we will miss him dearly. So let me, Colin, we've got a certificate of appreciation here on behalf of the mayor. Let me read a few things to you. There is not enough that we could ever say to thank you for everything you've done for this organization, for this community. So with that, let me start here in the middle. Colin retires from the fire department having earned the admiration and deep respect of his colleagues. He will be remembered as a fire chief with a heart who guided his department and served the citizens of Gilbert with integrity, honesty, and fairness. As Colin DeWitt brings to close his distinguished 14 years of service, I'm still trying to get you to stay a little bit longer. With the town of Gilbert, we sincerely and enthusiastically thank him for his principled leadership and commitment to serving our community. His dedication and moral fiber have helped to steer Gilbert through its period of rapid growth. Moreover, his wisdom, advice, and friendship have contributed to the betterment of the community and strengthened the town of Gilbert Fire Department. On behalf of the town council and the citizens of our community, it is with immense respect and gratefulness for Colin DeWitt's service to the people of Gilbert that I convey our deep appreciation for his outstanding contributions and hard work, and we wish him the best in his retirement. Thank you, Colin. Mayor, if I could have Mark Skocipic, our deputy town manager, come up here and join us.
We've got 3 sets of pictures, so town council get ready, the 4 of us, and then we'll have town council come up, and then we're going to do a family picture. Town council, please, that's the cue. I'm now quickly going to change what I just said. The town council may be seated. Before we have the official family come up, there's another family. Any members of the fire department, if you could quickly come down and join a picture. Because when we're talking family, this is family. Thank you. This Gilbert family may be seated. Colin, if you can stay put. And the additional Gilbert family members, if you could come forward. All the families coming up, we won't introduce all of them, but we will introduce one. And this is there were two official designated assistant fire chiefs, but there's a third one. Can you tell us who this third assistant fire chief is?
Mayor, my wife has assisted me and counseled me for 14 years here in the town of Gilbert, and I appreciate all of her counsel, love her dearly. And I think that my peace of mind, she gave it to me every time we got home, so I appreciate that, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. We would probably be tempted to end the meeting, because how can you top that? But Colin, thank you. I think I'm just going to end with one more thing. Just a quick picture. This is our summary. We could add a lot more, and there is that expression, a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is a favorite picture of when Colin was serving as the town manager. And the reason why I just wanted to end with this note, and maybe I'll just add 3 words to that 1,000 words that I could use. Colin DeWitt, lead by example. And April 30th has been designated as the Gilbert Public Safety Memorial Day. And 2 nights ago it was mentioned that our public safety memorial, Colin had much to do with that. Our 9/11 memorial, Colin had a little bit to do with that too. And so the legacy will continue. And the 3 words when I think of you, lead by example. So thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 2. Councilmember Ray, if you could come forward. And this is, we're just continuing on with fire department recognitions and public safety recognitions. And this is a special member of our Gilbert team.
We want to introduce one of our firefighters, David Zering, and if he would bring Spring up here with him. Another one of the examples of Chief DeWitt's leadership is things like this. Perfect. I'm going to pass the microphone over to Dave and let him explain Spring, how we got Spring, and a little bit of the responsibilities of both the dog and yourself, please.
Great. First of all, I'd like to capitalize on what Mayor Lewis said about the town of Gilbert and how our community stands out. There was a church fire in Tolleson the end of August, beginning of September, and it was an ATF call-out because they oversee church fires. And we have not had an ATF dog in the state of Arizona since 2008. Once ATF took over that fire investigation, they realized that there was not a dog here in the state from a national response team, and they had to call a dog in from Oregon to come in and help with the investigation. After the investigation was completed, I received a phone call from the national headquarters in Front Royal, Virginia, asking me if I would be willing to be a handler for the state of Arizona, having the only ATF dog in the state. They realized that we needed a dog in our state. I couldn't hang up the phone fast enough to get to our fire marshal, Dan Dubois, and I thought, man, I've got 2 hurdles I have to jump. She was going to start training September 17th, and I got the phone call September 10th. And they needed a 2-week, basically gave me 2 weeks to give them an answer whether or not we could be a part of the ATF Academy. Because if I couldn't do it, they were going to have to get somebody else. So Fire Marshal Dubois said yes. Now it's like going to our dad and getting permission to take the car out for the first time. So we went into Chief DeWitt's office, and it was his approval was there. And then we went to council, and again, we thank you so much for that. Spring is a ATF accelerant canine, and what she is trained to do is she is trained to alert or sniff ignitable liquids that could be used in a fire. We have bomb dogs, we have drug dogs, there's dogs that go out and find lost people, so an accelerant canine is an important aspect for our community. Where Spring brings value to not only our fire department but to the community as well is that for an investigator, it could take us days or weeks to investigate large lost fires. Residential fires could take us many, many hours. For Spring, she is capable of working in a house fire within 15, 20 minutes. Because of her sensitive nose, if there's small traces of an ignitable liquid, she is very good at finding that, which for us, it may be difficult. We're wearing our masks, we smell smoke, and it's very difficult for us to pick up those small traces, where for her, she can smell through the smoke, smell through the burn debris, and be able to alert on those ignitable liquids in very, very small traces. Matter of fact, we have to recertify next week, and what Spring has to certify on is 10 microliters of an ignitable liquid. So that's basically a drop from a baby dropper. And so Spring is food reward, so she does not eat out of a dog bowl. Her dog bowl is my hand. So minimally twice a day, I have to train her with putting ignitable liquids in different we do cars, we do people, we do outside searches, we do inside commercial buildings, we do construction homes. So every day I have to change up her training, and she has to find ignitable liquids in order to eat. And we do that twice a day. Minimally, I use 4 different ignitable liquids when we train, so she's staying fresh with those different ignitable liquids that she could run across in an investigation. So she is a very valuable tool. It's a 5-year commitment, so we are very excited for the next 5 years to be able to provide not only our community with the fact that she's an added tool that we can hopefully put away bad guys who decide to use ignitable liquids to set fires, causing injuries or death to our community, but also we are assigned to the western region of the United States as a national call-out member. And so if there is a major event where the national response team is needing an accelerant canine, we will be dispatched, and Spring will nationally help put bad people away. So again, we would like to thank the council for giving us the opportunity to have the only accelerant canine detection dog in the state of Arizona, and they chose Gilbert Fire to be the place to be for the dog to be. So again, thank you.
Dan, let's see where, Dan, please. You know how it is when you're trying to get the kids to turn towards the camera. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Taylor, please come forward, and we'll have those that are part of the proclamation for the Youth Week to also please come forward.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to invite the members of the Elks Lodge to join me here. And I'm thrilled to take the assignment from Mayor Lewis to read some selections from the proclamation and present this here to the members of the Elks Lodge here in Gilbert. Whereas the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks has designated May 1st through May 7th, 2013 as Youth Week to honor America's junior citizens for their accomplishments and to give fitting recognition of their services to community, state, and nation. And whereas Gilbert Elks Lodge number 2848 will sponsor an observance during that week in tribute to the junior citizens of this community. And whereas no event could be more deserving of our support and participation than one dedicated to these young people who, yep. How do we like that? Yeah. Whereas no event could be more deserving of our support and participation than one dedicated to these young people who represent the nation's greatest resource and who in the years ahead will assume the responsibility for the advancement of our free society. So I'd like to present this to the Order of Elks tonight and congratulate them on the focus for our youth and express appreciation for that. So thank you very much.
Vice Mayor Cooper. And the National Nurses Day proclamation. Anyone involved with that, please come forward.
All right. Don't be shy. Welcome. I'm going to have you. We are recognizing today National Nurses Day, which will be on May 6th, and we have with us here, well, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us your name and who you're with, and anything you know about National Nurses Day, and anything you don't say, I'll fill in just a minute.
Okay, sounds good. My name is Sandy Shorty. I'm an ER nurse at Mercy Gilbert. What do I know about? Oh, I've been there for going on 5 years. And I've been a nurse for 15 years. And actually, I graduate in 2 days as a nurse practitioner from Grand Canyon University. So thank you. It's very exciting.
Thank you for being here. I often think that nurses are some of the nicest people on the planet Earth. And just really appreciate, and I know that we all appreciate the service that you do. You know, I'm going to read just a couple of facts here about nursing and then present you with this proclamation here. There are 3.1 million registered nurses in the United States. And for the past 13 years, the public has rated registered nurses as the most trusted profession. And 85% of Americans rated nurses' honesty and ethical standards as very high or high, which is the highest rating for registered nurses since they were first included in the survey in 1999. So things keep getting better and better. And whereas the American Nurses Association, as the voice for the registered nurses of this country, is working to chart a new course for a healthy nation that relies on increasing delivery of primary and preventive health care, and we definitely know that nurses play a key role in that. And let's see, what else do we have here? The demand for registered nursing services will be greater than ever as we move forward because of the aging of the American population, the continuing expansion of life-sustaining technology, and the explosive growth of home health care services. And then finally here, whereas the cost-effective, safe, and quality health care services provided by registered nurses will be an ever more important component of the U.S. healthcare delivery system in the future. Along with the American Nurses Association, Mercy Gilbert Medical Center has declared May 6th as National Nurses Day, delivering quality and innovation in patient care in celebration of the way that in which registered nurses strive to provide safe and high-quality patient care and map out the way to improve our healthcare system. Therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Lewis of the town of Gilbert asks that all residents of this community join him in honoring the registered nurses who care for all of us. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Councilmember Peterson, Councilmember Daniels, Gilbert Feeding Families. And I don't know, do we have someone to come down with? Oh, Ian, please.
We're excited to welcome the United Food Bank representatives down, and I guess we'll start by letting you introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about the food bank needs this time of year.
I'm Ian Millar, and this is the committee that we've had now for about 4 years. And basically, we started off the first year with about 1,500 pounds for the United Food Bank, and this year we're hoping to get over 50,000 pounds. And I couldn't do it with the help of these people and more. So I'll let the rest of them introduce themselves.
I'm Jennifer Alvarez. I handle media and community relations here at the town.
I'm Jessica Bautista. I'm a digital journalist. I take a lot of the photos and videos.
I'm Sylvia Vega. I work in the town clerk's office.
I'm Jen Daniels, and I'm participating as part of the committee this year, which has been a great event. But I'm also up here to tell you what a tremendous team we have in the town of Gilbert. The town of Gilbert, because of Ian's leadership and the team that he has working with us, we've now become the model for other communities as far as how to conduct a food drive, how to create a little friendly competition, how to reach out into the community and make sure that those who are suffering do get what they need, and that the needs are being reached by our community. And so Gilbert Feeding Families is our committee name. It's also the effort that we make to make sure that families have what they need in our town and across the valley. So,
well, thanks to all of you. I'm also trying to help out and get 4R City Gilbert involved, and thank you for all your efforts. With that, whereas the United Food Bank of Arizona reports that in Arizona 1 in 4 children and 1 in 5 adults and 1 in 7 seniors struggle with hunger. On average, 21,800 different people are assisted by the United Food Bank weekly in Arizona. And whereas the United Food Bank of Arizona, in conjunction with the town of Gilbert, is sponsoring annual Gilbert Feeding Families event, and whereas the cost of inaction is too high, particularly in the face of many negative outcomes for our children and community, which are preventable, and every $1 donated can provide 5 meals for the hungry in our community. Now, therefore, John W. Lewis, Mayor of the Town of Gilbert, does hereby proclaim May 2013 as Gilbert Feeding Families Month and encourage all citizens of the community to participate by donating non-perishable food at any town facility. Thanks so much.
if I could add to that for just a second as well. Food is a wonderful donation, and there are specific items that the food bank is in need of, particularly this time of year. But because of the buying power of the United Food Bank, your dollar goes even farther when donated directly to the food bank. So we have an effort not only to collect food, which is obviously vital, but to collect dollars as well so that we can then feed even more families. So that's that.
And do you need a photo, or should we just go find our canned food?
We can do a photo. Yeah.
Oh, there's the photo. That's great teamwork. Thank you. Ian, if you can just step right over here real fast. And Councilmember Daniels, our MIAC team, if you could please come forward to be recognized. While they're coming forward, let's just talk a little bit more about Gilbert Feeding Families. So Tuesday morning, the last day of April, prior to our May 1st. And yeah, MIAC team members come forward right behind us. We'll just keep talking while you're coming up. We had an official, what we called the International Olympic Bag-Off Competition, live from the Albertson Shopping Arena at Warner and Lindsay. It was the town of Gilbert against our county, against our state, against our federal leaders, and we appreciate County Supervisor Barney being there, State Representative Warren Peterson, and representing Congressman Salmon, Chuck Gray, our district office leader for Congressman Salmon. We gave it our best shot. We did declare the county as the winner, and so that is getting us ready. So the month of May, as Councilmember Daniels said, various spots in the town where you can take canned food. We are trying to get how many meals?
50,000.
This is the leader to make that happen. 50,000 meals the month of May, Gilbert feeding families. Can we do it?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right. And so to our Gilbert residents, the challenge is on from Ian. 50,000 meals. Thank you.
Any town facility.
Any town facility.
Facility, fire stations and any town facility, yeah.
Thank you. Another sign of leadership right behind me, Councilmember Daniels. Who's here? Please.
Can you believe what a good-looking group this is? This is our Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee. We're minus a few this tonight. They've, as you can imagine, are leaders not only in the town but in their schools and in other communities that they're part of, and so we're grateful for those that could attend tonight. We do have certificates of appreciation, but I would like you guys to all introduce yourselves, and then I'll talk about some of the things that you guys have accomplished, because you have made a tremendous effort this year. You have done amazing things. So,
hey, I'm Ian. I'm from Mesquite High School.
I'm Samantha, and I'm from Highland High School.
I'm Paige, and I'm also from Highland.
I am Chris Legay, and I'm from Highland High School.
I'm Liana Wynn. I'm from Gilbert High School.
I'm Hunter Henderson, and I'm from Gilbert High School.
I'm Elise from Mesquite High School.
I'm Catherine Schiffo from Highland High School.
I'm Peyton from Gilbert Classical Academy.
Hi, I'm Pradisha Tawari from Campo Verde High School.
I'm Matt Porter from Gilbert High School.
Alyssa Ferguson from Campo Verde.
Tuan No from Gilbert High School.
Thank you. So let me tell you just 3 of the incredible things that this group have done this year. Well, and then you'll get to see the 4th. This group is responsible for the Youth Town Hall, which occurs every December. They come up with 3 topics of conversation. There's 90 to 100 youth that converge on Town Hall, and they're able to have open dialogue and then promote the views of the youth in the community. These are the voices for the youth in our community. Then they work really hard for youth government days, which they are then come down to Town Hall and they're paired up. This happens every April with a professional in the town, and they get to see firsthand. We have our youth mayor, Hunter Henderson, is here. He acted as our mayor this year, which was fantastic, and they all took a role and had an opportunity to speak and see what local government was all about. And then also they participate in the Mayor's Youth Leadership Summit, which is an incredible opportunity. I encourage every single individual to join us next year, or at least to watch the video online. We have incredible youth leaders in our town. I am completely satisfied that our community is in good hands with these future leaders. They also, all that done, undertook a tremendous effort to create a public service announcement. And I will let Jen tell us a little bit about that. It's Jen and Jen. I'll let Jen tell us a little bit about that, and we'll get a chance to see that public service announcement that they worked so hard on this year.
I'm Jennifer. I'm the other Jen. This year we decided to take on the challenge of doing a public service announcement. This is the first year we've done it, and all the kids were very excited about it. You were very excited about it. And so we decided to take on distracted driving was the subject this year. They did a great job of talking about it during Youth Town Hall, came up with some really great conversation or great ideas about how to decrease it, hopefully in the future. We also worked with AT&T. They have a simulator that comes out, and we actually had it at Gilbert High School this year. Comes out, the kids practice. Hopefully they're not practicing. They attempt to text and drive the car. Having seen them drive the car while texting and driving, I'm concerned if they ever actually do that on the road. So we really need to cut down on that, because I saw many of them drive into trees and over sidewalks. So, so they took on this project this year, and then Jessica, did our great filming for us, and then we actually filmed it just a couple of months ago, and so then it got edited, and this is our final version tonight, which they actually haven't even seen. So, I think, are we ready to play it?
Are you ready for the roll it? Okay, roll it.
Again, a tremendous learning opportunity, and these youth have displayed leadership every step of the way. I hope, raise your hand if you're a graduating senior this year. These are just a few of the ones that we're going to be losing this year, but applications are available online, and the applications for next year will be due August 30th of 2013, and we hope that everyone comes back again next year as well. So thank you for what you've done. We have certificates that Jen will hand out to you guys, and we appreciate your efforts this year. Can't wait to see you next year.
We'll conclude with one quick picture. The distracted, driving, dumb team. No, don't be distracted. Okay, please. We'll fill in a couple of rows. I'm going to stand next to Mayor Henderson. Okay, Hunter, remember, I go like this and you go down. Another big round of applause for our Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. Thank you. Two members of the council, we will now move to the dais. On the agenda, it was also noted that there's a proclamation declaring May 6, 2013 as Jazz Day. And each month we have a pillar of the month that part of our character counts. And this month is caring. Councilmember Cook, if you could read the specifics of that pillar.
Just give me a moment to find it.
While Councilmember Cook is still finding it. Councilmember Daniels found it. Please continue.
This month's pillar is caring. As the council members and town staff, we are truly care about each other, customer that our organization relates to, both internally and externally. We are committed to building lasting relationships. We are sincerely concerned about those we serve by expressing gratitude and helping people in need.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Cooper, do we have any request on the agenda for communications from citizens?
I don't have any for communications from citizens unless there are any others in the back.
Thank you. On the consent calendar, as noted on the agenda, all items on the consent calendar may be approved by a single motion unless removed at the request of council for further discussion or action. Other items on the agenda may be added to the consent calendar and approved under a single motion. Vice Mayor Cooper, what requests do we have on the consent calendar?
Mayor Lewis, I move that we approve, and noting that item 9 has been removed from consideration tonight, I move that we approve items 10 through 21, including the new item 15A, but pulling item 17 for council discussion and moving item 27 forward with a recommendation from Council Member Cook.
Second.
Thank you.
Yeah, what we need the recommendation.
All right, Councilmember Cook, and then we'll have that second.
Okay, what I like to do is I like to appoint 3 regular members with the terms beginning May 3rd through 2013, ending on April 7th of 2016, to the Environmental Energy Conservation Advisory Board. That will be Susan Beachbill, Vicky Alvarez, and Mark Nicodin. I also like to appoint an alternate member with a term beginning May 3rd of 2013, ending on April 7th, 2014, and that will be Elizabeth Howe.
And a second.
I'll second that.
With the motion and second, please vote. Those items are approved with a 7-0 vote. Thank you. On agenda item number 17, I did have a chance to talk to Councilmember Peterson, and I'll summarize a couple of items, and then Councilmember Peterson, please feel free to jump in. In our study session on Tuesday night, there was a request to have additional discussion about bed tax. And part of our discussion was so that we could have ample time to have a council communication packet prepared, let the citizens know so that if they wish to speak on that topic, they could come forward. And so we talked about postponing that for 2 weeks. Part of the reason for that request had to do with agenda item 17, that depending on how we would discuss the bed tax, that may impact votes on 17. What I did talk to Councilmember Peterson about was I would look to 6 other members of the council as to whether or not you feel that we need to wait, and if so, we have talked to our town staff and that we still have a window where we could wait. There is a deadline of May 24th that we need to be concerned with, but what I'd like to do now, and Councilmember Peterson, anything you wanted to clarify on that?
Mayor, you summarized it well.
Is for agenda item 17, knowing that we do want to have an additional discussion about the bed tax, do you, as a council, would you like to wait a couple of weeks, or are you wanting and desiring to prepare for a vote tonight? Councilmember Peterson?
Mayor, why don't I just do this? Let me move to continue item 17, that's the grant, to May 16th, and we'll just see how the vote goes, and we'll know what they want to do.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Okay. It does not pass. And so is there another motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve item 17 as presented to us.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Mayor, real quick, after the second, I just want to explain something real quick. I will vote for this item in the spirit of compromise and with a hope that it will demonstrate goodwill on this issue. I hope that that will be considered when we discuss the bed tax in 2 weeks. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. That's approved with a 7-0 vote. Now, for town leadership, I realize I'm jumping ahead to an agenda item that says future meetings. We do direct you to move forward. And I understand there was some confusion. And so let me just talk with Councilmember Peterson and tell him what I heard right as our meeting started, that what was heard on Tuesday night in our study session is that this would be an agenda item on the study session. And I don't think that's what the two of us were thinking, but the reason why is the packet for May 16th, the materials, the team would not have time to do that for the deadline that's been set. Now, I believe that our discussion was we wanted to have a packet so we could have a formal vote on the 16th, and that's your understanding, right?
Yes, Mayor. I understand there may be some who are tired of talking about this issue. They feel we've done it, but the way Robert's Rules works is until we can actually vote on it, we can continue to bring it up. Now, if we vote on it and I'm in the losing side of that, I'm not allowed to put that back on a future agenda. I would like to have that opportunity to have it in a normal council meeting where we can take some action.
Thank you. And as the two of us talk, we have in October, November did have some detailed discussions about bed tax. Now, to town leadership, what that means is we realize as a council that that piece will not be prepared for the normal packet. And if, to our town clerk, you could at least get it on the agenda, realizing that the specifics will come and we'll also get it communicated to the citizens, but at least having the agenda item will help us get started. But it is not the expectation that the first draft that we receive in the council packet, that this will be included. So in other words, I've noted that we've missed the deadline or we'll miss the deadline, but as soon as that packet can be prepared, we'll ask it to be ready at a minimum by the study session on the 14th. Does that work? Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Cooper, I believe we have concluded the consent calendar.
Correct, sir.
Thank you. We will move to the public hearing. I might just, from our study session, I do know that we'll want to have some discussion on 26. And we also had a question that came up on 23 and 24. For 22 and 25, and this, I realize I have not opened the public hearing, but for 22 and 25, Vice Mayor Cooper, do we have citizens that wish to speak on those two items?
We do have a request to speak on item 25.
Okay. And to the council, did we have a desire to have any discussion on 22 and 25? 25, okay. Let me proceed then by opening the public hearing on agenda item 22 and closing the public hearing item on agenda item 22, and I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve item 22.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please vote. That's approved with a 7-0 vote. 23 and 24 will be considered together, and so I now open the public hearing on agenda items 23 and 24. And please, Andrea, come on down. And I think you've got the two cards. The specific question that the council had asked, and Andrea, I may preface it and thank you for representing Safeway. And we also have a team member from Safeway, and we appreciate our Safeway stores here in town. There was a license approved, also a sampling, and that are two stores that you're wanting to transfer the license. And the specific question that was asked was, where in the store does the sampling take place? And if you can answer that. And then, of course, because you did fill out a card to speak, if there's anything else you feel that the council should know. And as you have seen from being here before, for the record, if you could just state your name and whether or not you are a Gilbert resident, please.
Andrea Lukowitz. I'm not a Gilbert resident. I live in the city of Phoenix. Mayor Lewis, council members, thank you so much for having us tonight. On each of the applications that we filed, there is a diagram filed with it that shows the areas where liquor storage is in the stores. In addition, there is a space that I believe is labeled A for a sales area. It's kind of a bubbled space that is where the tastings would take place in the store. In October 2010, this council approved sampling privileges for both of the stores that are currently before you for different licenses. Safeway has these, we're calling them extra licenses right now, that needed to be transferred to another store because they were reaching their reversion date with the state. So we thought we'll move them to an area we hope to grow in. So these licenses that we've asked to transfer here will do the same thing that the license that are current. We'll just flip one off and turn the other one on. It's an inactive and inactive license. Since 2010, when the sampling privileges were approved, I think there has only been 1 or 2 times where they actually conducted sampling at the stores. There's not been any violations, citations, or problems. When they conduct the sampling, the wine, and it's limited to wine at Safeway by policy, the law allows to use beer, wine, or spirits, but Safeway has chosen to only sample wines, will be put on a cart. It is a manned cart, must be manned at all times. And there's signs posted, 21 and over only, and the area that they've used was cordoned off, similar to, I think, like I couldn't get very close to Miss Goodwin over there with the cordon. So we're just looking to move a new license in to do the same procedures that we've had in place for 2.5 years.
Questions or comments? And I know we don't have this up for the public. The diagram in our packet has an A, B, and C. The A looks to be somewhat the open area, and the B and C look to be in what appears to be a secluded area. Describe again the A, B, and C.
The A is the liquor department in the store. It's an open area where the shelves have the beer, mostly the wine here. The B and C are secured areas in the back, storage for extra inventory.
Okay.
So if in the section called A, they were to conduct sampling, they would bring a cart into that area, choose a space near the back so that it could be cordoned off, so that the biggest concern, of course, is having children come into that area, but it's just not possible that they would be allowed to come in there. And anyone who appears to be under the age of 25 would be asked to show a valid ID from the state.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. And this is for 23 and 24. And unless there are other comments, I will close the public hearing on 23 and 24 and entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to motion to approve items number 23 and number 24.
Second.
Okay, please vote. That's approved with a 4-3 vote. Thank you.
Very much.
I open the public hearing on agenda item 25. And Councilmember Cook, in addition to your question, having a quick overview of 25, would that be preferred?
That'd be great. I just want to comment. I don't have any questions. I just want to comment on what I learned about the project.
And we also have a request to speak. Is that right?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Please.
Thank you, Mayor Lewis. Thank you, council members. This is a rezoning case for 2 parcels in the Gateway character area, the Cooley Station. That is the general location of the site, which is 37 acres, and the outer white boundaries is the Gateway area. On the right, we have the main highlights of what the Gateway area character means, or the general plan calls for: pedestrian connectivity, transit-oriented, traditional neighborhoods, and integration of uses. This exhibit shows the location of the 2 parcels, 12 and 13, and the designation in the current general plan. This other shows the layout or the configuration of the parcels as current and as proposed. This next one tells us how many units actually we're going to end up with a rezoning. As zoned right now with that configuration will have 486 at the density proposed with this request. And we're going to end up with 150 something fewer units, but better reconfigured and at the right locations and meeting the densities asked for by the general plan. That exhibit is part of the ordinance and shows the development plan, inserting the new layout for parcels 12 and 13 and what is planned in the surrounding area. Next will be the zoning exhibit of the ordinance, showing the where these parcels and what zoning designation they will have if approved. The next exhibit, also part of the draft ordinance, gives us a good idea of how the green space configuration, distribution of approved projects and future planned development. This more specific exhibit gives the more concrete information about how the parcel 12 will be platted. Last night, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the preliminary plat for parcel 12, which will be a single-family detached product, and subject, of course, to the approval of the Town Council on the rezoning request. These pictures show the same type of product that has been built for the same builder in the Cooley, in the Gateway area in a different master plan at the same type of density, 8 dwelling units per acre. It's already built in the town. Those are the pictures of the houses the way have been built and will be replicated in parcel 12 of the Cooley Station. We have the features that identify the neo-traditional subdivisions, rectilinear streets, sidewalks that are detached, tree-lined streets, and houses that do not have the garages to the front, but balconies, porches, and a lot of interaction with the streetscape. That's another picture of the same kind of housing product. And the corner parcel is a new design. What the applicant builder proposes on the corner parcel is a multifamily for sale, 4 plexes, 3 stories. And so this is the conceptual layout or plot plan for that parcel at 14.2 dwelling units per acre, 8 acres. And these are the conceptual floor plans of what will be on the first floor, the 4 garages and 1 unit that is 1,500 square feet. The second floor will be approximately 1,600 each unit, 2 units on the second floor, and the top will be like a penthouse. On this particular parcel, the applicant is requesting a deviation from the separation between buildings from the multifamily from 30 to 20 and to the rear from 20 to 20 feet instead of 30 as well. Staff supports those 2 deviations on the multifamily 8 acres because we feel that the density is at the lowest range, and we will support that as long as it's developed up to 15 dwelling units per acre. These are not rentals, these are for sales. Buildings will be smaller and will be owner occupied, and I think what the applicant requests is due to the fact that they will have an elevator to the 3rd floor. Therefore, that will reduce the separation between this projection to the other building's projection for the same elevator. So with that, I conclude my presentation. We recommend approval. We feel that is a good contribution of having the correct type of housing at a good location within this area, which will attract quite a bit of development in the future. And the town has invested already quite a bit in the infrastructure, and it looks really good. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. I think Councilmember Cook had a question.
Question or comment, or should we continue? All right. Councilmember Daniels? Okay. Vice Mayor Cooper, let's have our request. Let's proceed with that.
Yes, we have a request here from Reese Anderson.
And Reese, as you know, if you can state your name and if you are a Gilbert resident, please.
Yes.
Should I begin, Mayor?
Please.
Mayor Lewis, members of the council, for your record, my name is Reese Anderson. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Pugh & Lake. Our address is 1744 South Val Vista, number 217 in Mesa, which makes me, unfortunately, not a Gilbert resident. Mayor Lewis, members of the council, we're here for two reasons tonight we want to talk to you about. Our client this evening is Joanne Muscarello and the DeBella property, which you're aware of. This property is just to the east of Fincher Fields. The first reason we're here is to support Ryland Homes in this project. We think it's a great project. We want to see it go through. The second reason we want to talk to you tonight is just to talk about the future alignment of Delatorre Road. I think that's how you pronounce it, maybe Delatorre. And our request simple is to just preserve flexibility. I want to show just a couple pictures to you of what we're talking about. This is the general layout of the plan, as you saw from Maria. I've tried to highlight just a couple areas here where you have Cooley Loop Road on the south side of this project, and then Delatorre Road continues north and then connects up by the Willows, and I've highlighted that road in blue. What happens when this road alignment happened, and this happened several years ago, from my client's perspective, it shouldn't have been at this alignment, but it's water under the bridge. But what it's created here on your screen is that yellow area. It's essentially a non-buildable area for us, couple acres wide. Okay? So with that alignment, that's what ends up. Now, that alignment harkens back to some of the earlier plans for Cooley Station. Even though Cooley Station didn't have a legal binding effect on the DeBella property, you can just see in there, and this is a blow up of where these roads were coming. So the DeBella family, as they've looked at their site, has done some alternative lot layouts here as we try to make lemonade out of lemons. So let me show you this one. This is, again, just a conceptual plan, but what we've done here is continued Cooley East to the Cooley Loop Road to the east and brought it internal, and then Delatorre as it comes down and created, that's about almost a 9-acre parcel there, which is a developable parcel for us. Again, making lemonade out of lemons. I just tried to insert, hopefully you can see there where we've put that one, Delatorre back in its current configuration. And you can see that I think there's just a clear benefit there between something else. Now, to be clear, Mayor, I see my timer didn't start. That is great.
Keep talking fast.
I'm going to wrap it up, Mayor. Here's the bottom line from our perspective, which is we're not arguing here today against the current alignment of Delatorre Road. All we're asking for is to have a discussion with the staff and the council to recognize that there may be a better option in the future, and that the approval of Fincher Fields tonight shouldn't lock us in just on that little piece. Now, Ryland Homes is going to dedicate that property so the town's protected. They're going to give a cash in lieu payment so the town is protected. And if Joanne and the family decides, you know, that's the best way, they'll connect right at that point and bring the road up. But we just ask you to keep an open mind. When we come back at some future date and we propose a different road alternative, let us then, you know, propose that to you, and let's decide collectively then if there's a better solution here and not lock us in on what we've got right now. If that makes sense, Mayor and Council members, that's really why we want to talk to you. I already owe Steve Earle and Reed Porter lunch for pulling this off of the consent agenda, but that's why we're here bothering you. We don't want to in any way diminish or hurt their case. We fully support Fincher Fields project.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions.
So before we get back to the specific of this agenda item, the request is to be able to talk to our planning department about some of the thoughts you've got, and I'm assuming to a council that would be reasonable, and we'd ask that our planning department would spend some time, which, as you said, does not impact our ability to go forward with this agenda item. It's just keeping open some dialogue. And so, as a council, we'll direct town leadership to work on that and move forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
And now, Councilmember Cook, your comment or question.
Really, it's a comment. It was every time I look at some of these, I always learn something new. And it was strange for me to see parcel 12 and 13 lay out this way, but I learned that as time has gone on, we work in sections and pieces, and we carve and we dice and all these things up. So the recommendations to change parcel 12 and 13 really makes good sense, because the way it's currently laid out doesn't make good sense. So I just wanted to share with the council my full support of this particular project. The interesting thing about the product is that it is going to be very, very different than what we have today in a lot of different areas, because you'll have the streetscape and the businesses to the south, and then you'll have in their property the single-family detached homes kind of be 3-story high along that streetscape. So it is a unique product, and I really like it.
Thank you. Councilmember Daniels?
My statement today is, again, just a comment, and it's about safety in our communities. I'm finding, and I drive through several different communities that have this type of layout with the garages in the back, an alleyway, if you will, and really no driveway to park cars in. And what I'm finding in a lot of these neighborhoods is that there is so much on-street parking that it is very difficult. You're finding, even in two-way traffic, individuals having to pull over to let the other car through. And so probably for a future discussion, perhaps with our joint meeting with our planning commission at some future date, I would like us to seriously consider the width of our streets and or how we can better accommodate the vehicles and the vehicle owners in these types of neighborhoods, because I think in the long run it could be a very big problem.
Thank you, Mayor Lewis. Councilmember Daniels, we're concerned about that too. And we have worked with the applicant, and these streets will be public, will meet our standards, allowing parking on both sides. All the units have garages, and also they have reserved pockets of visitors parking in addition. So it is a very pedestrian, but we're accommodating multi-transportation means. So it is our concern, and they also have very well-defined on-street parking with planters that come out in those bump outs. So you will be surprised that we'll be more successful than we might have done in the past.
And this would be considered the applicant, right, Steve? Okay, please.
I just wanted to make one additional comment in response to...
and we'll have you state your name just for the record, please.
All right, Stephen Earl, currently addressed at, in Phoenix at 3101 North Central Avenue as my business address, but within the next month I'll be a resident of the town of Gilbert. I'm pleased to be so. I just went by the house tonight, it's carpet and appliances, and I'll be here. But just to respond a little further to the question that was raised by Councilwoman Daniels, in addition to the other things that Maria just mentioned about the width of the street and the on-street parking, these units that front onto Cooley Station and have the garage in the back also have an extension off the house, and underneath that is an actual driveway where people can park in the driveway. So these are very unusual, high-quality units.
Councilmember Cook.
I just want to kind of tag on to Councilmember Daniels' comments about public safety. The one concern I did have was the bike lane that separated the traffic as related to the scallops of the parking, because now you have the traffic that runs, east and west, and then you have the scallops on the edges, and then the bike lane is literally separating between the parking as well as the driving. That to me was really kind of like a concern for public safety, because now you have bicycles going back and forth, cars trying to park in or coming out could present more of a public safety issue. So that was a concern for me.
Thank you.
Mayor, Councilman Cook, as it relates to the bike lanes on Cooley Station, these units obviously front onto Cooley Station Loop, but they don't have cars accessing Cooley Station Loop. So the bike lane on Cooley Station Loop Road actually is free of any cars relating to our project because we have our garages in the back. Now, as it relates to the balance of the single-family detached parcel 12, we do have a regular public street that does allow parking, but we also have the opportunity for bikes to be in that situation. So it's pretty much like a typical local street.
Thank you. I look to my right and left, and I think I'm ready to close the public hearing on agenda item 25, and I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve item 25.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. With that motion, second, please vote. That's approved with a 7-0 vote. Thank you. I now open the public hearing on agenda item 26. And Tuesday night in our study session, we did have discussion. Councilmember Peters and Councilmember Taylor, thank you for the follow-up. We have received a copy of some proposed changes. And Susan, if you could maybe just lead off and maybe give a high-level description of agenda item 26, and then maybe you could help give some direction as to the sheet of paper that has been given to the council, what we should do.
I'll be happy to. Item 26 is an amendment to Chapter 2 at the administration section of the code. It's been a long time coming, and a lot of staff has worked on it. I think I should just highlight the major changes. There's some minor changes, but I'll just highlight the major changes. And the ones that I understand are the most interest has been expressed. In section 2-58, it's in succession, we made some proposed revisions to comply with the emergency operations plan. And that would be a succession of when the town manager is not available. The next in line would be the deputy town manager, then the police chief, the fire chief, and the finance and management services director. The existing code provisions provide for the assistant manager being first in line, then public works director and police chief. If as I said, that the change was to comply with the emergency operations plan. In section 2-58, there's been a lot of interest expressed in this section on the town manager's powers and duties. Overall, at a high level, it proceeds to implement the council manager form of government. It adds the power to create additional departments and offices consistent with the budget. Currently, the organizational chart of the town has certain departments in it. Those are set forth in the code. In addition to that, the town manager would have the ability to establish additional departments. It deletes the provision requiring recommendations to the council regarding positions and personnel. The reason this was included in an amendment was because that's what your current personnel policies, which have been approved by the council, provide. In other words, the manager does not have to come to the council every time he wants to eliminate a position or create a position. So this was we thought was a conforming change. It adds authority to execute certain documents necessary for improvement projects. This goes along with the existing provision of the ability to execute easements. There were additional documents that are occasionally needed, but they fall in kind of the same category. They're licenses, they're consents to assignments, there's consents to use agreements. And so we thought that would make it a little more efficient to implement improvement projects that have already been approved by the council. It adds authority to execute contracts that do not commit to the expenditure of town funds. I know this has generated a lot of discussion, and it certainly wasn't intended to. There are small contracts that have no economic impact that we've been bringing to the council over the years, and they probably happen twice a year, maybe more, but maybe less. But it's not something that staff is going to, live or die or fall on its sword for, if you will. That also adds the authority to settle transaction privilege tax disputes, even if they're greater than the settlement authority of $25,000. And that has to do with some confidentiality requirements of sales tax statutes. It formally creates the Department of Town Attorney. There's a Department of Legal Services currently in the code. It consists of prosecutor and the contract town attorney. We thought that it would be a good idea to formally create the Legal Services Department. The powers and duties are pretty much the same as what's currently there. Section 231 through 133 is a big one. It is the provision of the code which deals with the departments, the creation of the departments. What's in the code is not consistent in either in titles or in existence of the current town structure, and so we just listed the departments that are currently in the town's organizational structure. That would be Finance and Management Services, Public Works, Development Services, Parks and Recreation, Police and Fire and Rescue Services, and the town prosecutor departments. But as I noted before, the town manager would have the ability to create additional departments. We eliminated the specific description of the duties in the code of the various departments. They used to be quite detailed. The current proposal is that those duties not be specifically set forth, but that the manager be authorized to issue a management directive to set forth the powers and duties of the departments. If a duty if it were decided to move a duty to another department, the item would not have to be brought back for a code amendment. Some specific duties are still set forth that we thought still needed to be delegated to the departments. And those are set forth in sections section 2-313 and through through 133. And we added something we haven't really discussed with you, but something came up a couple of months ago regarding concessionaire agreements. And it turns out that the procurement code only governs expenditures of town funds, but sometimes we enter into, especially the Parks and Recreation Department recommends entering into agreements for whereby there might be a use of town property and the town gets a percentage of the gross revenues, say food sales or something. And so we added an ability to, for the purchasing officer to execute those where the anticipated revenue to the town is $50,000 or less. Over that, it would come to the council. And then we made some amendments to sections 2-393 through 398 regarding disposal of lost or unclaimed property. And that's to conform to state law. I did send out an email yesterday after we looked at an issue that was brought up at the study session. The legal advisor for the police department had recommended that that section a subsection be eliminated, but it can go back in. It's not important. It's not that important. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And would you like me to?
Yes, I think do we have a sheet that we can put for display for those here in council chambers and watching? And to the council, would this be, as Mark, our deputy director, is placing this on the screen, would this be a good summary from our Tuesday study session? And again, the leadership of Councilmember Taylor and Peterson appreciated that these 6 items, we'd like to have some discussion as a council. And once we work through these, and then there might be 7 or 8, but it's 6 paragraphs. Once we talk about these 6 items, that we would be prepared as a council to approve the rest. Is that a fair assessment? Okay. And so I think, Susan, with that overview, why don't we take each one of the 6 for just a moment. And the first one, Councilmember Taylor, why don't you give a quick overview of your thoughts there, and then we won't do any formal votes, but I'll just quickly find out from the council, maybe a thumbs up, thumbs down, and then we'll pull it all together for a vote.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first one here deals with, it's item 2-57, deals with the succession planning. My recommendation is to keep the code as it is today with the Director of Public Works. So that would not be an interim Director of Public Works, but a Director of Public Works as the next in line. I think that's the material change from what is being recommended. And I fundamentally just like the idea of we continue as much as practical with a civilian line of succession is the thought there.
Would it, just for my clarification, it is really saying to leave it as it is, but what is proposed is first Deputy Town Manager, what you would then be saying is the Director of Public Works, and then would it go to Police Chief, Fire Chief, and then the Finance and Management Service Director? So you're really just inserting Public Works Director?
Well, my thought was to just keep it, just remove the strike-throughs in 2 and 3.
Okay.
I'm okay if you'd like to replace number 4 with the Fire Chief and then move the Finance Director down as number 5. Okay. I'm happy with that.
All right, thank you. Council, okay with that or concerns? Councilmember Cook.
So Susan, in looking at the other municipalities here in the Phoenix area, can you share how, is there a kind of a standardization of succession with the other towns that you see kind of a trend in which way they lean?
I did not look at that. We were simply conforming this section to the adopted emergency operations plan. So I did not look at that, what other cities did on succession.
Councilmember Daniels.
When I look at this section of the code, I think there's wisdom in complying with the emergency preparedness plan. If in the event that our town manager is not available, and then also that our deputy town manager wouldn't be available, to me, that would constitute an emergency. And I would want to default to the emergency management plan. And I don't really see the difference between what you've labeled as the civilian workforce versus the non-civilian. I see great leaders in all of our department heads that we have, and I'm comfortable with the presentation to comply with the emergency management. I think that has been identified as a solid structure. Those people are the ones that are trained for those types of events and emergencies, and not that our public works director wouldn't be. Of course, they're handling some pretty big things as well, I'm sure, on a regular basis. But I'm comfortable with complying with our emergency management.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought about that, and two thoughts. One is, when I said the word civilian, I'm reflecting back on the great standard George Washington set. I mean, we know the Trumbull picture, right, where he's handing the sword to the Congress, and that's the big symbol of civilians run the government in this republic at all levels. And so as much as practical, we try to follow that particular standard, and I think it's a good standard to look at. When I look at the emergency, I thought about that. I kind of rolled that marble, and in an emergency situation, do we want the police chief to have all of these responsibilities, or out in the field, managing emergency situations? My preference is in the field, managing things if there is disruption or if there is things that police activity. I'd rather have his sole focus on that rather than diversified across a lot of other things. And I know that all emergencies aren't strictly police action, but our police officers have expressed they view themselves as sort of a paramilitary type of organization. And so when I use the word civilian, it's deliberate and just reflecting back on the standard that we have for our republic. And anyway, those are a couple of thoughts on.
Thank you. What's nice on these two thoughts is they'll both work. And I might just ask the council, if we're in a constitutional convention, we have a Daniels plan, which is what was proposed. We have a Taylor plan, and so we can move on to the other 5 items. The Taylor plan, how many would, okay? And the Daniels plan. Okay. Please.
Patrick, do you have any preference in this?
Our deputy town manager and I were laughing. In regards to other cities, most of them have 2 and 3 deputy town managers, so they have a deep bench to pick from. For us, in looking at the responsibilities of guiding an organization of this size and looking at the skill sets we require from the various department directors that we have, as well as conforming with our plan, that was the thought process along this. I don't think this is a huge issue, but that was the thought process in bringing this forward.
Okay, thank you. And did that answer your question? That sounded like a politician. Yeah, no, but kind of. What are you trying to be, an elected official?
We can certainly add a couple additional deputy town managers if that would please them.
For efficiency and sake of time, I did see 4 hands go up for the Daniels plan. So, Councilmember Taylor, thank you for proposing this for discussion. We will assume on that item it will be what is in our document. Let's go to the next one, the 2, 58, 4, and 8. Any comments on that one?
So as I reflect on the council manager form of government, for better or for worse, there's good things and there's bad things about it, but that's what we have today. And, you know, that design puts the authority in the council. And so I see the recommendation here is to just keep the existing kind of a review and consent, but effectively it's a veto. It's a check and a balance on recommendations from the town manager. And you know, if we want to have a discussion on chartering and changing the form of government, you know, that's something different. But we are in council manager, and the research that I did on that is it's the responsibility of us to reflect the will of the people. And I think we still keep the efficiency of the town manager when they're able to make recommendations and change departments. And for us to be able to sign off on that as the voice of the citizens, I think that's appropriate. I don't think that's I recognize it's technically inefficient, but it's a good check for the citizens to have a voice in that process. And anyway, that's the thought behind that, Mayor. Thank you.
To leadership, as I'll refer to it as the Taylor plan, because it feels good, but does that, if the town manager made department changes, that would come to the council for vote? And anything that would be given the title of department. Other changes that, let's see, that are not a department change would not need to come to the council for vote based on if we move forward with this. Is that correct?
Mayor, members of the council, I'm not sure if that would be true. I will defer to.
Because I really am trying to avoid department changes. I could, and I'm just talking for myself, I could probably be okay with that, but other changes, I just think it would be too inefficient if everything had to come for the council.
Well, 4 currently says, advise and consult with the council with respect to the appointment of all appointive officers of the town and recommend the removal of such officers when such removal or suspension shall be consistent with the best interests of the town. If appointive officers means the ones that you appoint, and I was just trying to pull up the code to see exactly what constitutes an appointive officer to see if there's a definition. If that just means the officers you appoint, which are the courts, or the judges, town attorney, town clerk. What was the thought of
And while you're still looking at that, I don't want to have you lose your train of thought. Councilmember Peterson?
Mayor, I was thinking about this, and there's a good part that kind of ties into this in the, it's section 2-133A, because I don't want to micromanage either on this. I hear some chuckles there. but I'm sincere in that. The 2-133A talks about the manager shall, by directive to each department director, designate the duties and responsibilities of each department. I find it fascinating then that we go through and define these departments in code, and council's going to improve them at that high level. So I think that's appropriate, and that's as much control as I want. I don't care for it. This is a very high level, and that's fine. But I think about things like this. When you know, some of us campaigned for office, we talked about public safety being the top priority. At the departmental level, we're talking about very different goals, practices, functions between one department and another. And at that higher level, I think it's important for us to have the ability to talk about how those resources are used and controlled. I certainly wouldn't want to see resources diverted from what I think is a lower priority than public safety, away from public safety to those other things, and you technically have that ability. So what I wanted to suggest on this as far as duties and departments, and I know I'm skipping a little, but these tie in together, is to go ahead and give him the ability by directive to, you know, designate the duties and responsibility of each department. I would say except as stated hereafter. And so at that high level, he'd have to come back to council if they wanted to change it at that level. Now, to go back...
Would you be referring to the 7 that are identified?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the town manager were to change any of those 7, that would come to the council?
At that higher level, if it fits within those boundaries, that's very general,
and
I think that's okay.
Excuse the interruption, but Susan is nodding yes.
Yeah, that's why those 7 are there. Those are the council's prerogative.
So to the 7 of us, if changes are made to those 7, are we okay with that, to have it come to the council for approval? All right.
Can we state then except as stated herein? I mean, why do you talk about he has the ability to define the duties of those, and then you list them? Let's just, you see what I'm saying? Does he or does he not have the ability to define those duties without us? Because it doesn't make any exception, and I think that needs to be added.
The duties, I might have missed something because I might have missed something. The duties are not set forth in the code anymore. They are set forth in the manager's directive of those 7 departments.
So what are those 7, what are we doing there with that? We're defining those departments at some level, their function, right?
You are setting forth the departments that will be departments of the town by council action, at the least. And then if the town manager deems more departments, for example, the Information Technology Economic Development Department, that's not listed, but he feels it's important to have an Economic Development Department to concentrate those functions in one place, then he can create it. But the 7 that are in the code, you're creating by this code.
But if he can create and destroy departments...
Not those departments.
It doesn't make that exception. If he can create and destroy departments, these are useless. He can destroy one under that the definition and create a new one in its place.
But it
with a
says,
different definition.
in addition to the departments created pursuant to Section 2-131, he can create departments.
Let me ask it another way, and we may be there. There's 7 major departments. If there's a change to any of those 7, it would come to the council for approval. Otherwise, the town manager would have the ability to create departments.
Additional departments.
And are we okay with that? And we could...
I'm happy with that later section. I still think creating a new department should come to us.
Okay. So. All right. So that question I'll now call the Peterson Plan. To the rest of the group, do we have 4 that would support that Peterson Plan, or are you okay not having it that way? Councilmember Cook.
I have a comment. So in large corporations, some of us have been working with large corporations, understand the board of directors functionality as it relates to the CEO. The CEO is obviously gauged on his performance in operating that company, because obviously those companies that have that form of governance may have, these companies may be, part of the, stock market or stock exchange and so forth. I know within my own company that the CEO directs his executive team to decide, what departments are needed to provide the best profit for that organization. So I'm okay in having Patrick, being the CEO of our town, have that flexibility if he feels that is best to add those departments and so forth based upon, our direction and our policies as the council. I don't have any problem with that.
And if any changes took place to the major 7, would you be okay if that came to the council for approval?
Those 7 I'm fine with.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the Cook plan, the Peterson plan, to the council, are you okay with the Cook plan?
I'll just make a follow-on comment on that. I mean, we're focused on policy and outcomes, but we have a lot of opportunities to very strongly imprint the direction. So I don't feel like we're giving anything up. We went through as a team the strategic initiatives. We just, within a couple days, have sat down with the town manager and discussed where we'd like him to go in a review setting. And we have that opportunity every year. And obviously, we're in the middle of a budget process right now, and we have the control of the purse strings. And so again, there's so many opportunities we have to guide and direct, and really a manager would be foolhardy to kind of start going a different direction anyway. And so I'm very comfortable with what's been presented to us here.
Okay. Councilmember Peterson.
Real quick, the purse strings is an issue we had discussion at in the study session. There was some confusion. I originally went to Susan with this question. I said, what is the purpose of the power of being able to structurally create a department if you don't have the authority to fund it? So that was my question. And so I went to the financial policies, and it looked like to me they have the ability to not only create but also fund it. They can take it from one department and send it to another department they've created. Now, as I talked in the meeting, I thought I was confused on that, but we're back to that same point. Now, I did not see, Don, do we have a revised one for tonight addressing that conflict? I need to bring that in together because you talk about the purse strings. No, we don't. If they want to create and take funds from an existing department, redirect those resources into a new one, he can do that without our review and approval. I think that's pretty drastic. When we're talking about public safety, we don't want to see those resources diverted without our approval. I think that's a big change. That is a massive power shift from the people to the bureaucracy, in my opinion.
And and we're open on agenda item 26, so I have to be careful. But Dawn, on 29, will that be addressed? Okay, so we'll get to 29 in a few minutes. What I'm going to ask, the Cook plan has been proposed.
The Cook plan is what's presented.
Yeah.
Right? I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I think Councilmember Peterson, let me move on to the third paragraph. So the first paragraph, we're going with the Daniels plan. The second paragraph is the Cook plan, which is what is presented. But I'll summarize it again. It's that if any changes are made to those 7 major departments, it comes to the council for approval. All other changes, the town manager has the authority to move forward.
And could I clarify something? I stumbled on one part until Mark reminded me. It's been a long time since we discussed this. The language that's stricken in paragraph 4 is not exactly being replaced by this other language. You don't need it. You have that power. It was superfluous, and we were just taking it out. You always have the ability to remove appointive officers, and the manager doesn't need to be involved.
Thank you. Councilmember Taylor, the third paragraph, 25811. Tell us about that.
Okay, let's see if we can go 1 for 3 on this one.
In baseball, it's pretty good, especially if we're talking San Francisco Giants, but go ahead.
All right.
Slip that right there.
So my recommendation is to keep in code. So the recommendation from staff is to strike the whole item. My recommendation is to keep the whole item, and here's why. We have, and we'll see in agenda item 29, that we have a lot of focus on revenue and management of revenue and so on and so forth. There's hardly any focus on cost containment. And this is one provision that makes it an explicit duty of the town manager to focus on cost containment, cutting costs, saving taxpayer dollars. And I think it's important to keep it. You know, the last item, if that goes through, that's going to, you know, give the bureaucracy a chance to grow and grow and grow. And without some explicit controls, I'm just concerned that we, once again, are losing the focus on the other side of the coin. One side is revenue, and that's important to run in town, but we also need to stretch the taxpayer dollars and be wise with our money. And I think this is a good wording to remind us of that particular duty. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Cook.
So let me ask a question then. When we go through the budget cycle, it's a fixed sum of dollars that has been set aside for that fiscal year. I guess my question would be, how does the town manager exceed that? I'm trying to figure out how does he get more money if we've already had a fixed budget set aside and he's basically following that direction. I'm just trying to understand how we might be in violation of what you just said.
Well, I'm not addressing it at the macro level. I'm sorry, Mayor Lewis.
No, please.
By the floor, okay. That's a valid point, Councilmember Cook. There is an upper limit, right, that we set through the budget. But what this is doing is this is probably, well, this is getting more dedicated focus on the you know, the interstitial workings of the expense side of the balance sheet.
So by keeping it is a principle and a emphasis that we want to keep. And Town Manager Banjer, how do you feel about keeping it?
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, I think I've got something that strikes a good balance. Keep it in, but change where it starts and recommend. Strike and recommend to the council and insert including the abolition, consolidation, transfer, removal of positions or personnel whenever in his judgment such action would result in increased administrative efficiency. So keep the intent of that paragraph in there, but not require the approval of the council to eliminate positions that are deemed to create more efficiency within the organization.
Councilmember Taylor, how do you feel about that?
I think that's helpful. Thank you, Patrick.
So let's call that the Taylor-Banjer plan. And as a council, we okay? Please.
Going back to the big picture here, Mayor, how are we going to vote on these? Meaning, we've got a Cook plan on one, we've got a Daniels plan that half the council or the majority approves. So we, when it gets time to vote on this, are we going to vote on each one of these one at a time?
No, we're going to do a general one. And the key person who's taking notes is Susan. And after each one of these paragraphs, if you have any questions, and we've got this recorded, so if at any future date it's not what we thought, but it is coming back to a motion to accept what has been presented and the changes talked about tonight, and we're going to vote one time. Okay, so let's go to the fourth. Councilmember Ray, did that answer your question?
It does. I'm concerned, though, Mayor, that when the motion is made, and I suspect amendments will be made, we're going to end up having enough amendments that we could have just voted on each one of these one at a time to start.
Let me go back to Susan, because we talked about this. Are you comfortable? Because when I say I'm entertaining a motion, I'm going to say with what is written, what has been proposed tonight, is there a second, and that's it.
Well, actually, if we're going to make changes to the text that's on the dais, I will probably need to read exactly what the new text will say.
That would make sense then, that we go back and do each one.
Well, we don't have to vote on each one, but the motion will include the specific changes that I can just read to you.
How do you feel about that?
That makes sense until we have an amendment made. And then when an amendment's made to an amendment to an amendment, I think it's going to get very confusing because she can read the text, but I suspect there'll be a council member or two who will want to amend the motion. And then at that point, I think it's going to get...
Thank you. And let me turn to the council. We're trying to work as a team here. After each paragraph, I'm trusting that we're not going to be making changes.
Mayor, not that this helps my cause any, but I think for the sake, or it hurts it. I don't think it does either. But I think for the sake of clarity, I do think it might sound like it's going to take longer, but probably not take longer to just do each of those clauses one at a time, vote on them, and then we get them done. And we know what we're doing.
I'm okay with that. Councilmember Cook?
Well, wasn't your little kind of side voting enough to have Susan write the language up? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because that to me,
That's what I thought, but
that to me sounds like, and if,
I think that would work fine unless there's an amendment. And I suspect that there will be amendments, and once those are introduced, then it will get very confusing.
okay.
And so Councilmember Peterson, could there be amendments?
I can guarantee an amendment, and I can almost guarantee a second. This is going to get a little bit crazy.
Okay, all right.
I think we're going to have to do one at a time then, Mayor.
Let's go back to that first paragraph. And Susan, whatever verbiage that you would need us to vote, let's have a formal vote on that first paragraph. We're missing Daniels on the Daniels plan.
Mayor, while we wait for Councilmember Daniels to return, and again, I'm going to defer to some of our parliamentarians on the council. If there's a motion on the floor to adopt the staff's the recommendations as presented, that's your main motion. Now, if you entertain amendments on each one of those, you can click off each amendment on a pass or fail. So I would like to amend the recommendation to include 257 as is up on the board. You do your vote on that, it passes or fails, you go to the next one, next one, next one, next one, next one. You'll probably dispense with it a lot quicker than you think you will.
I am looking for efficiency, and there's some great recommendations coming. So just because Councilmember Daniels is not here, we're going to move to the fourth. Let's see, the third one. Fourth paragraph. And so, Councilmember Taylor, 1 for 3 in baseball is good. Fourth paragraph, what are your thoughts?
So we're talking 2-58, and the new number 11. My recommendation is to not add this, as it seems to imply that the town manager can commit property or town assets without council approval. And I could be corrected on that if I'm misreading that wording, but that's the way I read that, and that would be something.
Susan and Town Manager Banger, please respond to that.
With respect to the concern about committing assets of the town property, hopefully there will always be someone looking out for the gift clause. So I'd never considered that to be a problem. There would always be a gift clause issue if you just committed them without getting anything back. But frankly, staff does not care that much about this. It's a little open-ended. Staff doesn't care that much about this particular provision. We thought it was a good idea, but it might not be, just frankly.
Any other comments based on hearing those two statements? So the Taylor plan, would we be okay with that?
Well, I guess since this is an additional piece, Mayor, and I'd have to look to Councilmember Taylor, but do we need to add it at all? Do we need to have it in there at all? Or just
No, this was added. This was an added power.
So
if you want it stricken, it'll just be stricken.
if it's removed, is that okay with the Taylor plan?
That was my recommendation, just not add it.
Okay. And to the council, we'd be okay not adding it. Now, Councilmember Ray, I'm very aware and sensitive to what you said, but with what Mark said, and I'm going to try something. Paragraph 5.
Mayor?
Susan?
Can I go back to that again?
Please.
Can I ask Susan, why was that added? Was there a particular thought that there was some type of a contract or an assignment that...
There was a contract. It was the lease of the loan of the bleachers that we thought was a minor contract that didn't have any significant any economic impact on the town and didn't cause town expenditures. And we felt silly bringing it to the council, but maybe we were wrong.
I mean, my opinion, Mayor, was, again, operational, that Patrick should be okay to have it in a government agreement or whatever and allow that. And to me, I was okay with that.
Councilmember Daniels?
Mayor Lewis, if there's a dollar amount associated with this as well, like if the value is more than $25,000, if the value of land, if the value of materials is more than a certain dollar amount, then perhaps we want them to bring it to council. But if it's less than, and if it's something that we're lending to another municipality or a school district or something like that, do we really want that to be brought to council on an individual basis?
I'm happy with looking at something like that. I mean, it would add, we don't need to deal with things that are not material to the budget. I'm happy with looking at a dollar amount.
Is there a dollar amount, Mayor, that the staff would recommend that's consistent with some of the other dollar amounts?
Maybe we should just consider bringing back an amendment, because we've got procurement code issues that deal with a lot of those concerns. This was if it doesn't commit any expenditure fund. So now we've moved to, well, is there some property value that might be conveyed that maybe there should be a limit on that. That's the only thing I could think that we're covering. I don't think we can draft this on the fly.
So what you're recommending is to go ahead and take it out?
Yes, if
All
we
right.
think it's important enough, we'll come back with an amendment.
Thank you.
And Mayor, again, I think another example could be, as you and I know, there's going to be that major baseball tournament that we know later on this year for the Little League, and they might need to borrow those bleachers, right? And I'm thinking, as a council member, I'm not sure I would want, if Patrick feels like it's a good thing, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Thank you. So future discussion on that. The fifth paragraph could be a quick one, because Councilmember Taylor and Susan have worked on this, and this is verbiage as a team, so we'll call it the Taylor-Goodwin plan that is being proposed. So as a council, are we okay with paragraph 5?
Mayor?
Please.
Just one question. I'm just trying to understand it as I'm reading it here. Without a written waiver of confidentiality by the taxpayer authorizing the release of settlement amount to the council, is that where it ends, or is it a public disclosure?
The only requirement for the settlement, if it's in excess of $100,000, would be a waiver as to disclosure to the council.
Okay, so are we okay with the Taylor plan on that one? Councilmember Cook.
So when I see it says 2-61A 3C, and I know that I'm looking at the C here, which is a long paragraph, is that going to be amended to that, or it replaces that? Because it's in light of confidentiality requirements related, is that?
It's at the end of, it comes at the end of that paragraph. And there is a formatting problem. It's not 3C, there's A, and then B is a major paragraph, and C is a major paragraph, so I'll straighten that out. But the additional language comes at the end of that little parentheses C.
Okay, thank you. So I should have said the Taylor-Goodwin plan. Are we okay with that? Yes. So the sixth paragraph, Councilmember Taylor, please.
So the idea here, Mayor, is to just have an explicit provision that when we confiscate items like liquor or perishable items that are not used as evidence, that they're destroyed as soon as practicable.
Okay. And there was an email that explained why the police department wanted to have this taken out. I think as a council we read that. Taylor plan, okay. There's a thumbs up here. All right, so Taylor plan on number 6. Now, this is where, Councilmember Ray, we find out how we did. Because I would entertain a motion that Susan could help us get the specifics and take a second on that, and we would vote. But
I think this.
Oh, I need to close the public hearing too, but
I don't know if there's anybody in the audience that wants to speak, but.
We didn't have any cards on 26, did we?
I don't have any cards, Mayor.
So why don't I close the public hearing, and then Susan will have you summarize. I close the public hearing on agenda item 26. Susan, please.
You have an ordinance in front of you. Do you want to do your? Mark's suggestion, which is a good one on parliamentary procedures, is to have someone make a motion to adopt it as is, and then there will be individual amendments to that motion, which I would be happy to walk through.
Okay. Councilmember Peterson, please.
If I do the motion, I'm going to move to approve as Taylor amended. So you might want someone else to do that.
Overall motion. Vice Mayor Cooper.
All right.
Just a motion to approve, the second, and then there will be amendments, and I can help you walk with.
Okay. I move that we approve it as submitted.
Second.
It's
Okay.
Mayor?
Hold a second. Susan?
then there would be a second.
Jan Daniels.
Jen Daniels. And then could I suggest, if there's going to be an amendment, what the first amendment is that we talked about, and somebody can make that?
I move to amend the motion to keep the, what's it called, chain of authority as it was in the original code.
Now, the only thing I don't like about that, we had a plan that we followed, and after each one, we stopped and we did an informal vote. So that confuses us, and that's exactly what Councilmember Ray said. So I'm hoping from the other 6 that I don't get a second on that, so we can move forward as we had planned.
It only takes a second to vote, but.
Mayor, can I ask a point of order? Should we just, to your point, where we don't need to belabor things that we already know, amendments won't be supported, maybe just skip to the ones that we think that there's some ambiguity on? Is that?
So there's no second to that motion to amend?
I would prefer the record, that we're all on the record on each of them. I really would.
Okay. I'll second that then.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
This is on the amendment, yeah.
I'll see if I understood. So that motion dies or motion is not approved with a 2-5 vote.
So there's no change to section 2-57
Right.
from what's in front of you.
Okay.
That's good.
Thank you. Now, in fairness to Councilmember Peterson, you want to vote on each one, which when I started this process, that wasn't the plan. That wasn't what I was proposing, and I was trying to look and make sure, but this is where I just want to go. If we're going to do that, I need to get some direction and go a different way, because otherwise Susan was going to summarize the 6 and we're going to have a vote. So are you asking, because the amendment died?
We can go through and summarize the prior votes, or you can have amendments on each one. It's totally up to you.
I'd like to be efficient and get this done quickly and go to 29, but as a team, I'm open.
I was doing what Mark suggested, wasn't I? Yeah.
Mayor?
Okay, so for each one.
Yes, I think
All right, so let's go one at a time.
So is there another amendment?
I move to amend sections 2-58, subsection 4, and subsection 8 to be returned to their original writing in the code.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Please vote. Okay, that is not approved with a 3-4 vote. Let's continue.
Mayor, I move to amend section 2-58, subsection 11, to keep the explicit responsibility of the town mayor to cut costs and save taxpayer money, with the one edit that we strike recommend to council and say includes.
Could I read it as it should, as I believe the motion is?
Beautiful.
Make or cause to be made studies and surveys of the duties, responsibilities, and work of the personnel employed by the town, including the abolition, consolidation, transfer, or removal of positions or personnel whenever in his judgment such actions would result in an increased administrative efficiency.
Second. Is there a second? Okay, motion and second. Please vote. That's approved with a 7-0 vote. Let's continue.
Mayor, I move to approve, or move to amend the motion for subsection 2, or 2-58 subsection 11, to return it to its original state, keep the 13.
Let's see, I just have to remind myself on that, we talked about just not having it.
Yes.
With what Councilmember Peterson said, that's not,
No, he's correct. The motion, the original motion was to adopt it as is, and now it's being proposed to be amended to delete this new language.
okay, so,
That's what I meant, but I didn't say it well.
all right.
Okay, we
Second.
understood.
All right, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote. That's approved with a 7-0 vote. Continue.
Let Jared do this one. This is
Yeah.
Susan, his work.
Mayor, I'll move to add the sentence, "No settlement in excess of $100,000 shall be approved by the town manager without a written waiver of confidentiality by the taxpayer, authorizing release of the settlement amount to the council," to the end of paragraph 2-61A
C. It's
C.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion second. Please vote. It's approved with a 7-0 vote. Please continue.
Mayor, I move to amend the motion so as to keep 2-398 subsection C.
A second.
Okay, please vote. It's approved with a 7-0 vote. Thank you. Now, Susan, did we accomplish what we needed to on 26?
Well, you still need to adopt,
The main motion has to be.
vote on the main motion.
And this is where Vice Mayor Cooper was about to make that, so please. Oh, okay.
Just need to vote on it
And we've done the second on that, so please vote on that
as amended.
as amended.
Mayor, I haven't voted yet. Let me just make sure, if a yes vote on this is saying yes to the entire, as presented, except for these 6 amendments or so that we did, including, correct, okay.
Only the ones that passed. Okay. Thank you. Please vote. That is a 5-2 approval. Thank you. Let's move to 29, and then we'll come back to 28. No, let's see, 27. We've done 27. We'll come back to 28, so let's go to 29. 29, Dawn, for those in council chambers and those watching, if you could give a quick overview.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Dawn Irvine, the Budget Manager here for the Town of Gilbert. On Tuesday afternoon, we had the opportunity to discuss with Council our recommended update for the financial policies for this fiscal year. In the discussion that incurred on that day, we recognized that there were some additional changes that we wanted to bring back to the Council. As a summary, Mayor, per your request, the major changes that you see this year are the inclusion of a debt policy, which again helps to reiterate the town's interest in ensuring that it uses debt responsibly, and that when we refinance debt or use debt instruments in any way, shape, or form, it's to the overall benefit and cost benefit for the taxpayers for the Town of Gilbert. Additionally, there's some emphasis now on the repair and replacement funds and moving forward to incorporate the long-term financial plans. So those are the major changes that you see before you in the overall. Following the discussion on Tuesday afternoon, staff did go back and make a couple of additional revisions, which were emailed out to the council earlier today. The first one that you see before you on the screen adds down to the bottom there under the fiscal conservatism heading a statement that further defines fiscal conservatism to include maximized efficiency, and highlights that not only throughout the entire document of the financial policies, where it's a theme that's threaded throughout, but stated outright on that very first page that maximized efficiency is key to the very purpose of these policies. The other significant change came...
Dawn, let me just ask, I think from our Tuesday discussion as a council, we would be okay with that. Thank you. Continue.
And then the most significant change that you'll see this evening came again as a result of those conversations on Tuesday and then just now regarding Chapter 2 of the code and the consistency then with the financial policies. One of the items that was recognized under budget administration was that should the manager have the ability to make certain changes within the departments, the budget authority would need to follow. So the language that you see before you here does not allow for the manager to increase the level of budget. Indeed, once that budget is adopted by council each year, that sets a legal threshold, and that cannot be done until such time as council adopts the budget for the following fiscal year. But it does now allow for some additional movement between those departments.
Mayor.
Councilmember Peterson, please.
So I just want to highlight this. This is extremely important in light of the other discussion, and I guess the council wants to do this. But before, the way it read on that $50,000 line, the way it read was the town manager or his or her designee is authorized to approve any adjustments between funds, departments, or projects and any contingency transactions up to $50,000. The word departments is now out of there. So now it's just at the fund level. I'm just trying to make sure everyone understands that this is also changing. So if we want to shrink the resources in police and redivert them to a new department that's been created without our consent or knowledge, that can certainly take place now with this authority. I just want to point that out.
And Mayor, staff hasn't very much has an interest in ensuring that we have the right level of detail in here. One of the interests that we want to make sure that we do maintain is should we, for example, the same functionality but now be moved to the supervision of another individual throughout the town, that we would be able to move the budget to meet the change in supervisory responsibility as well. And that's also addressed in there.
Thank you. Continue. Councilmember Cook.
The transaction up to 25,000, if you go between the departments, is it a one-time transaction or could it be multiple times? Like again, taking Councilmember Peterson's, like police, I take 25 to parks or I take 25 to another. How's that language work?
Mayor, Councilmember Cook, that's an excellent question. Where you'll see this occur, you might see it occur more than once in the same department, but not for the same reason. For example, if we have certain contracts where we purchase individual items throughout the course of the year, perhaps $25,000 at a time, or let's say $30,000 at a time, if it were only to occur once, we would be able to do the contingency transfer using the approval authority of the town manager. If it were to occur more than once in that year for the same purpose, we've now reached $60,000 for that same purpose. So what we're not trying to incrementally encroach upon that threshold. The threshold is really meant for any individual purpose. Most often, and council does see these contingency transactions on the periodically with those budget reports. Most often, you'll see that it actually comes up with some kind of emergency repair. Sometimes with what you've seen recently, and some drainage events and some capital project items, but also as opportunities come up where we had anticipated something down the road, but if we do so now, it will save the town money to do so earlier. So we try and take advantage of that timing and then report back to the council later.
Thank you. Continue.
Mayor, those are the most significant changes that we've seen. There are, just to disclose to the council, a few other small changes since Tuesday. The numbering scheme we noticed was off, and there were a couple of typos that have since been corrected in the document as well.
Councilmember Peterson, do these changes reflect the list that you've given to the council? Or are there any that we're missing?
Dawn's changes do not. The changes that she has there is to be consistent with what was just adopted structurally. As I talked about, there's no point in having the structural ability to create a department if you don't have the authority to divert funds there. And so this is changed to be consistent with that. So my suggestions, I have some revisions. I don't know if we can put them up on the overhead. I'd like to discuss them briefly as possible. Sorry.
And just for clarification, what she presented so far, you're okay with?
Except for that change about the between departments part. previous language where between departments had to come to council, that's what I wanted to keep. And so you'll see the first paragraph is the one we just talked about, she talked about, and really my language is identical to what it was before they just recently changed it. The only change I made is to strike, well, I add the word and departments level just to be clear, but that's not all that important. That could probably go away. But the other part was the strikeout on that one line because it's confusing. That line seems to contradict the following lines, and that's where we got into trouble in the study session. So again, this is just to make it like it was before. Before the changes. So that's what I'm suggesting there. And let me, can I make a quick comment on efficiency? We talk about it takes time for them to come back to us. Well, you know, it takes time for us to follow up on anything we do. Doesn't it take resources to measure success? Wouldn't it be more efficient to not have to keep checking our progress? Of course, but then we wouldn't get the kind of results we want. You don't get what you expect, you get what you inspect. That's what we say in our industry. And doesn't it take resources to be transparent? Of course it does. But again, it saves resources in the accountability it creates. And so, you know, and I'm not saying anyone's a socialist here, but it's a common socialist argument to say that profit is waste. And that's how they fight against this idea of the capital of free markets. Profit is waste. That shouldn't be passed on. But anytime these socialist schemes are tried, they get even more waste. And it's a real head scratcher, except the accountability that's required in a free market when it's sink or swim, and not only sink or swim, but sink or swim at least as fast as the majority of your competition. Yeah, we can say it's wasteful, but in the end, the accountability creates more efficiency. And so that's just a comment I wanted to make on that. But
And Don, for my clarification on 26, with what just happened, if this sentence is taken out, as proposed by Councilmember Peterson, are you okay with that, or do you have concerns based on our 26?
Mayor, I do believe that there would be some additional restrictions should we strike that. I think this provides some clarification. Certain times, especially, this strikes not only at the department level but at the project level. Sometimes we have projects that are corresponding to each other. It makes more sense to align certain costs with one rather than another, and having the town manager with the authority to do so would certainly make our ability to proceed with those more.
So you're recommending that we keep that sentence?
I would recommend that we keep that sentence.
So we have a Peterson plan or an Irvine plan. Okay, good. Any other discussion? And what we did on 26 is we voted on each one. Should we vote on that now? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Lewis, I move to accept the financial policies as presented to us.
Second.
Mayor?
Please.
What a surprise. I will use every bit of power I have to fight for what I believe in. That is true. We'll do that. I move to amend the policies, and we'll do this one at a time. I move to amend to revert to the original language, except striking the one line as I presented.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote on that. Okay, that is not approved with a 2-5 vote.
Mayor, back to the main motion. So I'll move to amend the main motion to add language as I've shown there. If I get a second, then we can use the debate time. I can explain it.
For clarification, can you specify, are you talking about one particular item on that list, or are you talking about all the rest of them?
What I used the format that the legal counsel does. I did strikeouts for anything I removed, and I used caps for anything that I added. So
I'm sorry, that's not what I was asking. Are you making the motion for all of the rest of the page?
No, I'm sorry. The changes under fees and charges. I figure we'll break it up.
Okay, so this is on page 9. Okay. And Councilmember Peterson, take a sentence or two and describe what you're proposing.
Sure, thanks. I appreciate that. So this is what I talked about in the study session. And I added Councilmember Daniels' comment is well thought, and it's important to me too. So I added the line, user fees will not be applied to victim services. They already aren't, and so this section doesn't apply, but just in case there's fear of that. So I added that line, but otherwise all I'm saying is that the existing language is there, except I add the word elective services, and then we cross out partial, so we end up with elective services are full cost recovery. The next line is really kind of the opposite. The non-elective services are partial cost recovery, and then we have the line about victim services.
And Don, this is not to put you at odds because we're getting close, but because you know this section well, are there any concerns you would have if this part were approved?
Mayor, I believe that this very much is a policy level decision. By making all elective services full cost recovery, it does become very challenging for staff because as our costs vary throughout the year, we would have to adjust those costs accordingly. Additionally, at the policy level, you really would be looking at every single elective service as being full cost recovery.
Mayor, if I could insert a question, mayors, members of the council. I don't know that elective services is a defined term anywhere within our codes or within state statutes, so I'm not sure how we would define what an elective service is and a non-elective service.
A service you get to choose. It's the one's not forced on you. You tell me how to define it. In high school, we had electives, or we had none.
I choose Gilbert Water, but that doesn't mean anyone's forcing me to take Gilbert Water.
You only get charged for as much as you consume.
I realize that, but that also means this would be a complete change in structure for our Gilbert Senior Center for.
I think we're ready to vote. I'm listening. We're ready to vote. Vice Mayor Cooper.
I don't know if did you get a second on that?
Mayor, I'll second that so we can move on.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Please vote. That's not approved with a 2-5 vote. Let's continue. So it's 16, Economic Development Reserve.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll move to amend the motion as I've proposed. Everyone has a copy, so I'll run through that. Basic idea is what I talked about in the study session. I want to make sure that we have, I think Economic Development Reserve Fund is a sensitive enough fund that we probably just want it to come to council, in my opinion. So I strike that part, and then I also add that we want to see a direct, measurable, positive return on investment. And so that's what it is.
So I think, Don, the change here, that last phrase, nice phrase, I think council could probably agree to, okay. Well, a phrase, the $50,000. So if that were approved, even if there's a dollar amount, it would still come to council?
That would be correct, sir.
Okay. All right. Vice Mayor Cooper, I heard a...
Mayor, I'll second that.
Okay. Did you want to make a comment before we vote?
Yeah, I do. I mean, obviously I don't have a problem in general with making sure that there's a return, but first of all, return on investment is vague, to say the least. And secondly, I mean, I think our Constitution is pretty good, and I feel pretty good with what's in our Constitution as it relates to these kinds of deals. And so for us to, quote unquote, raise the bar, if you will, with an undefined term at this point, a lot of economic development projects, return on investment is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, you can do cash on cash, and some of them aren't cash, and how do you value this or that? And I just feel like we're already well protected with the Constitution, and our legal team will take care of making sure that we do what we need to there, and the council can decide what is in the best interest of the voters as long as we're doing what we're required to do by the Constitution.
Okay. And I believe, Councilmember Taylor, you did a second on that. Okay. So please vote. Okay, not approved with a 2-5 vote. Thank you. And the Councilmember Peterson, that last paragraph on that page 17, cost containment.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's patience. This last one was added, this was in response to some of the things Councilmember Taylor talked about, that And I actually, we consulted with an expert here. I got to get his title right, but he was a senior finance manager of global businesses for Procter & Gamble, recently retired. His feedback, he read the financial policies. His feedback was interesting. One of the main problems he was concerned about, he says, I saw no real focus on the cost savings side and the establishment of systems to deliver improved efficiencies and savings. And he actually commented on the focus on increasing revenues, but in any balance of budget, you've got two parts. You've got revenues, you've got expenditures. And if our policies are geared towards focusing on new revenues, I don't think that's the best fiscally conservative, politically conservative viewpoint. We want to look at the savings side, and I think there's a lack there for that focus. So we came up with this language. It's not probably anything to write home about, but I think it does the job. It may need some wordsmithing, but I'll just read it briefly. Gilbert values the position it has held with the lowest overall costs of service per citizen of comparative communities in the Phoenix metropolitan area. Gilbert will continue to strive to improve upon this performance. As a trendsetter in this regard, comparisons with other communities will be important, but they will only be used as an indication of how we can improve, not as an excuse to regress. For each measure, where Gilbert is already at the top of the class, we will continue to improve by trying to beat the standard we have set. To do this, the town manager will establish key goals and initiatives. Measurement and progress of these initiatives will be monitored through regular reporting and embedded in each director's performance management goals for the year. This was another thing our expert recommended, was measurable results. That's why I was looking for that on the return on investment. And I think we want to do that in everything we do. In fact, I think back to one of the first things that Patrick said when he started. He talks a lot about the measurable results being necessary. And I love one of the quotes he said. He says, "In God we trust, everyone else bring data." I think that's perfect. And so anyway, with that, I hope we can add that.
Mayor,
so I move to add that.
Second.
Okay.
Can I make a comment on that?
Please.
Mayor, for me, this was the big one, as I mentioned in the study session. I appreciate Councilmember Peterson's thoughts on the other one, but for me, this is the deal breaker. If we don't have a significant commitment to cost containment, and really we're just talking about focusing and how we manage our debt and things like that, that's really on the revenue side. There's two sides to the coin. We have aspirations to be a high-performing government and adopting best practices for business. Here's one on the table right now that is a best practice for business. It's tried and true for decades and decades. And if we really have that serious commitment, it's a good opportunity tonight to adopt that and implement that in performance management. We're talking about pay for performance, and to have a serious commitment for each of our directors to help manage our costs as well as the revenue side. That's how good businesses work, and that's the opportunity we have tonight. That also gives us the opportunity to celebrate. And there's been some great things, Don, you and your team have done, and Patrick and your team have done in this particular space, and so get some credit for it. That's another, positive thing here. So, Mayor, thank you for letting me add to that particular.
Thank you. And Don, as you, from the study session, which the emphasis that Councilmember Taylor placed, I think, was well stated. It's what we want to do. You did put some verbiage, which is not on this list, that you commented on. And I'm not trying to put you in an awkward spot with this question, but you tried to address that by emphasizing the concepts and principles that were just mentioned. The wording on this, from a legal standpoint, we'd have to modify, but do you feel like that we accomplished this principle with what you already put in place at the start of your discussion?
Thank you, Mayor. We did try and throughout the document emphasize cost efficiency and effectiveness, and I like, as Councilmember Taylor said, the idea of cost containment. One of the things that we want to ensure, especially from a budget perspective, as we get the direction from council to move forward, if we have direction, for example, to move forward with certain strategic initiatives, that's a new, if that's a new, I don't want to say burden, but a new level of service or new expectations on staff, there might be additional costs that would be associated with that. So depending on the standards that are set per the verbiage that that's contained here before you, it might become difficult for us to manage what could potentially become conflicting direction from the council. So we would look for some clarification on that.
Okay. Vice Mayor Cooper.
I love the principles here. I'm not sure I'm there with the wording, and I do feel like it has been included elsewhere. Maybe it's not strong enough elsewhere, and so the way I would pursue tonight or proceed tonight is probably not to go with this, but possibly to ask, in that purpose area where you did already make some refinements, fiscal conservatism, and then you have some sub-bullets. Maybe there's a sub-bullet there on cost containment, focuses, a statement there about, the need to look for those opportunities and to actively pursue them. And maybe that's a solution tonight. I don't have the words, so I'm almost recommending that we move forward without it tonight, but maybe let you guys kind of think and take another bite at it, and just on that one item, you could bring it back or something. But for me, I'm not really sure about it tonight.
Councilmember Cook.
So the language in how I interpret this is actually, I think, very difficult to manage. How I look at this is that we've implemented a policy at the beginning of the process by the zero-based budgeting, because to me that defines what it costs to run the business, and at that point we basically reset everything. At that point, that's the measurement as we move forward. That to me is the improvement to how we have a limited government and a lean and mean organization. So that to me is how you can measure that. You can measure that from year to year, how we do the zero-based budgeting, and I think that's how you measure it. It's an easier way of doing it. We agreed as a council from a budgeting perspective what it costs to run that business. Now, during the year, as that budget is set, there will probably be natural efficiencies that will come naturally and improvements to that process. And those are obviously the gains that we've seen throughout this year. When I look at the amount of revenue coming in and the amount of expenses, I mean, that's hard to measure because a lot of that revenue coming in is actually the benefit of, Gilbert folks purchasing or businesses purchasing different things. So to me, I'm trying to understand how can you measure something this complex where if we go back to the zero-based budgeting, which really defines what it costs to run the business.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. So when people study organization efficiency, they typically look at between 20 and 40% in organization's budget is considered waste when they dig in and look at it. And so a commitment that a high-performing organization has to this is what they're saying is, hey, we realize there's waste. We don't know exactly what it is, but each year we're going to put in people's goals to have a couple specific projects to continue to be more lean and work on that 20 to 40%. Because I think that's the assumption that we're losing is that there is no waste in the system. But research has shown that organizations like this do have it just as a matter of practice because new contracts come up, and that's the commitment that you have. And then tying it to performance management is where it makes a difference, because oblique philosophical statements or the spirit of things, sometimes that helps, but usually not.
I'm now offering my opinion. I'm leaning in the direction of Vice Mayor Cooper's comment that I do support this, and we love to hear those comments and our town staff, and they come up with these great ideas. This idea is saving us $25,000, and we want to continue to encourage that. this, the verbiage does not do that for me and worries me. So I guess I like this thought of taking this discussion and still seeing if we can't find some additional language that could be put in, but move forward with tonight and have that for a future meeting. Now, I'm speaking for myself. We do have a motion and a second, I think, that came, and we have Councilmember Ray that wanted to make a comment. We'll hear that, and then let's continue.
I agree with you. I think that Councilmember Peterson and Taylor's comments and idea behind this are justified. I'll agree with Councilman Peterson. I don't think this is something to write home about, the writing of it, and so I think that we should get something to write home about and then approve that, but move forward without it.
Okay. So we did have a motion and a second on this, and Councilmember Peterson, anything before we vote?
I promise it's just a quick question. Where in the financial policies do we find our zero-based budgeting? Is that in there?
Mayor, Councilmember Peterson, it's not stated outright in there. What we've come to council before, and we can certainly put language in an upcoming revision to the policies as well, is that we look every year and talk with the council every year about what are the priorities for the upcoming year. And what we've discussed in the past is that we would be doing zero-based budgeting every few years where we would get the maximum benefit. But again, at the current point in time, we discussed that with council at the beginning of the year and determine the best possible process for that year.
Thank you.
Yep.
So let me, Town Manager Banger.
Members on the council, I just want to say, I just got this language not long before the meeting started. I like it too. I don't think that it's in the correct form, so I'd like the opportunity to go back and work on this some more, and we can bring an amendment forward in the appropriate format.
Okay, thank you. Just so we're clear on what we're voting on, it would be basically to take 17 as
Mayor,
is.
I'll remove my last motion. I appreciate staff coming back later with
Okay. All right, thank you. So we had a main motion from Councilmember Daniels and a second. Let's vote on that.
I'm sorry. What are we voting on? The overall with
The main motion as it has been amended.
Originally,
which-
'cause the
which I don't
amendments-
believe it was amended. Did we amend it? Did anything pass?
No.
So it's the main motion unamended.
And one other clarification. So is there a commitment from staff to come back with an amendment on the ideas in 17? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, please vote. That's approved with a 6-1 vote. Thank you. So agenda item 28, boards, commission, and committee updates, please. Councilmember Daniels?
Mayor Lewis, we're looking forward to an Operation Welcome Home event. In fact, we have two this month, May 16th and May 22nd. Both of them will prove to be pretty incredible events. And we, of course, invite the public, and all information can be found on the town's website.
Thank you. And for those here at council chambers, there are sheets that give information about the May 16th event. Thank you. Other comments on 28?
Sorry, Mayor, I have one more.
Please.
As part of the transportation master plan process, next Tuesday and Wednesday evening, there will be, were you going to take that, Cooper? Sorry. No. Okay. There will be public open houses to allow the public to contribute ideas and information to the transportation master plan. Again, all that information can be found on our website, and we do have actually, we have our own website for the transportation master plan, which is something really good that I can't remember right this second. Oh, do you know? GilbertOnTheMove.com. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else on 28? On 29 we did, so 30. And Kyle, if you can move closer to the podium just in case. Susan, on 30, this is future meetings. And I need to be, and I'll look for some help and direction on a question I'm about to ask, because it's not on the agenda, so we can't talk about it, and it could easily come out. And so this is, the council has received a request on meetings that Development Services have been organizing, and to talk about the upcoming international code changes and building code changes and such. And I'm looking for some direction on, do we have a future meeting? and Kyle can help give some direction with this question of the current process of where we are going. The council at some point would be receiving from Development Services a council communication that would be on such and such date to discuss this. And so future meetings, in a future meeting, we're going to have this discussion, and if Kyle could just answer what the process is when we would be giving this information, it will help me then come back and say, do we need a special meeting where the council would be talking about this, or will it be happening, and in a sense, by just waiting, we'll get a chance to have dialogue. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure what information Kyle's going to give you.
He'll know. So listen closely. Go ahead, Kyle.
Mayor Lewis, council members. The process that we're following right now is we've been having some open meetings with different interested parties, the Small Business Alliance, the Chamber of Commerce, the Home Builders Association. We've had an open meeting. We've still got the Design Review Board and the Environmental and Energy Conservation Advisory Board that we want to take the code revisions to as well. Upon completion of those meetings, Development Services staff will be making will be drafting a recommendation of the amendments to those codes and be bringing those forward to the council for action. At this point in time, we don't have a date set for that because we wanted to get through the meetings. We wanted to find out what the amendments would be, and we wanted to have some more dialogue with the folks that we've had those meetings with as we move forward. So we haven't set a date yet to bring it to council for action. If it is the council's decision, we could always schedule a study session item prior to even bringing that onto the council's agenda if they'd like that information beforehand.
And as you said, you don't have a date yet, but it sounds like a couple of months from now before the council would have it.
Mayor Lewis, that's correct. Probably end of June, first part of July.
Okay. So, Susan, again, without having council give specific feelings or such, it's a question we have received, a request to have a meeting, and listening to that, I guess I'm more prone to say let's go through the regular process and not meet at this point. Okay, I had 4 nods, so I think we answered the question, although Councilmember Cook?
I agree. Let the process go through and some of the vetting. And I know we can't talk about this, but the hardest part for me is that I'm not an expert in this area, so let them have the meetings.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Let's go to 31, report from town manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I did want to...
Susan, you were such a good sport on that. Thank you. But the body language, if we could have had the camera on Susan, Gilbert Digital, we needed, okay. No.
Got her. On that topic, I wanted to thank Kyle and his team. They've held a series of open houses on this topic. We're the only city that I'm aware of in this region that's held any type of solicited any feedback, any input, held any open houses for our community to learn more about the codes that we adopt for our building standards and safety. So I want to thank Kyle and his team. They've put a lot of time and energy into it, and there's still some steps to go. So thank you, Kyle. I've also got a very short video that Gilbert Digital put together. We had our first winners for our Spark App League contest held out at ASU Poly yesterday. So Dana, if you go ahead and...
The data that's coming from the public sector and what we do with it is going to have the most meaningful impact on us more than anything else that's out there. So you guys are on the front edge of that. We really, truly appreciate the time and energy you put into your apps. We loved reviewing every one of them, and we're excited to announce the winners today.
Impressive.
We were very proud of them. We had 15 high schools involved, 9 teams, approximately 75 students. We're going to make some more data sets available for them for our next contest this fall, and very, very excited to have high school kids involved and interested in things along the STEM industry line.
And this is your agenda item, but I'll just add our Gilbert Digital team, IT, in partnership with the ASU Polytechnic Campus and Intel. And Intel was at this gathering this week, and they were also very impressed. So,
yes, and actually, thank you, Mayor, that our Gilbert Digital team spearheaded this entire effort, and they did a phenomenal job.
Thank you. Anything else on your agenda item?
That will do it.
Agenda item 32, report from town council members. Councilmember Daniels.
Just one. Last night was Higley Unified School District's Teacher of the Year dinner, and we'd like to congratulate Jessica D'Ambrosio, third grade teacher at Higley Elementary and Middle School, for winning Higley Unified School District's Teacher of the Year, and she'll now go on to compete at the state level. And I thought that was pretty exciting. So, and congratulations to all those other fantastic teachers. It was a great night to recognize teachers last night.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Councilmember Cook?
So this morning, Mark and Nicole and I went to go visit our north facility, water facility, to look at the construction of the fluorination equipment and an enclosure. And I was very, very impressed that it's extremely professional. And it will protect the employees, the team members that work in there, but also it looks like the equipment is just top-notch. So it was well done. So the efforts that we had with our consulting company that worked with our team, it just looks wonderful. So I wanted to report that to the council as well as the public, that we got fluorination running in the north part of Gilbert.
Thank you. Thank you for the road trip. The agenda item 33, report from the mayor. I did report on several items of the study session. I won't repeat that. And since we were together, we did have our Art Fest 2013 in downtown Gilbert last night that coincided with the Joe's Barbecue Customer Appreciation Day. And there were, I think, only about 10,000 people in line. Yeah. I also, our Gilbert Leadership Class of 21, there was the unveiling of the mural, which is just to the south wall of the American Legion building, and that is a beaut, and that park. And I could make a few comments about one member of that leadership class, but I'm just going to move on and say to the leadership class of 21, thank you. And speaking of not commenting on that one member of the leadership class of 21, we do thank, as a council, 2 individuals that we had a chance to meet with and complete a review. And so to presiding Judge John Hudson, to Town Manager Patrick Banger, very positive feedback from the council and on the goals that you accomplished last year and the goals that were set for next year. And so thank you for that leadership, and we congratulate you with agenda item 15A tonight. On that note, meeting adjourned.
Is that another way to say he who must not be named?